before we dive in.
Let me show some love, you know. Yeah, flow.
Turn on the stream, feel the energy rise. Shout out to the fam, the ones in the skies. Every comment, every laugh keeps the vibe alive. You're the heartbeat of the chat, yeah, we thrive. Pulling up each night, ready to roll. You make this place lit. Body and soul, vibes in the back, heavy lifting, they don't play. Keeping it smooth, watching traffic every day. Peacekeepers on alert, holding down the fort. Crew full of love, every stream they support. To the chat, to the crew, yeah, we shine bright. Are the backbone of the night, holding us tight. To the members, true believers, making it real. You're the pulse in our heart, let's do the deal. To the chat, to the crew, yeah, we shine bright. Are the backbone of the night, holding us tight. To the members, true believers, making it real. You're the pulse in our heart, let's do the deal.
We see you dedicated, going the extra mile. Not just watching you invested, that's the style.
Lights on, vibe strong, every show's a hit. Community together, can't take a minute to quit. You keep us going, no watered down vibe. From the chest to the miles, no we thrive.
Major respect to the ones who keep it clean. Clean up crew rolling, y'all know what I mean. Don't try it today, they say with a glance. Bringing peace to the chaos, giving us a chance. To the chat, to the crew, yeah we shine bright. Y'all the backbone of the night, holding us tight. To the members, true believers, making it real. You're the pulse in our heart, let's do the deal. To the chat, to the crew, yeah we shine bright. You're the backbone of the night, holding us tight. Just know this is true. We appreciate every single one of you. This is our moment, community's the key. Let's get it poppin', let's set the stream free. So here's to the chat mods and members like, oh, you're the heart of the stream and that's never getting old. Now let's get into it, yeah, we ride on time. With you by our side, every night's a prime.
Yeah, we out here holding it down. This community's
Yo, mic check, mic check. What's going on, everybody? But they didn't want to test. So much going on here. So much going on. What's up? What's going on, everybody, man? Wipe your feet, hit the like button. Step on in. Don't be shy. Don't walk on by.
Yeah, we gon' take a moment before we dive in.
Make sure you sub up if you really support the platform. And grab a membership. Gift a membership.
Shout out to the fam, the ones in the skies. Every comment, every laugh keeps the vibe alive. You're the heartbeat of the chat, yeah we thrive. Pulling up each night, ready to roll. You make this place lit. Body and soul, vibes in the back, heavy lifting, they don't play. Keeping it smooth, watching traffic every day. Peacekeepers on alert, holding down the fort. Crew full of love, every stream they support. To the chat, to the crew, yeah we shine bright. Are the backbone of the night, holding us tight. To the members, true believers, making it real. You're the pulse in our heart, let's do the deal. To the chat, to the crew, yeah we shine bright. Are the backbone of the night, holding us tight. To the members, true believers, making it real. You're the pulse in our heart, let's do the deal.
We see you dedicated, going the extra mile. Not just watching you invested, that's the style.
Lights on, vibe strong, every show's a hit. Community together, can't take a minute to quit. You keep us going, no watered down vibe. From the chest to the miles, no we thrive.
Major respect to the ones who keep it clean. Clean up crew rolling, y'all know what I mean. Don't try it today, they say with a glance. Bringing peace to the chaos, giving us a chance. To the chat, to the crew, yeah we shine bright. Y'all the backbone of the night, holding us tight. To the members, true believers, making it real. You're the pulse in our heart, let's do the deal. To the chat, to the crew, yeah we shine bright. You're the backbone of the night, holding us tight. Just know this is true. We appreciate every single one of you. This is our moment, community's the key. Let's get it poppin', let's set the stream free. So here's to the chat mods and members like, oh, you're the heart of the stream and that's never getting old. Now let's get into it, yeah, we ride on time. With you by our side, every night's a prime.
Yeah, we out here holding it down. This community's love, wear it like a crown.
what is going on, everybody, man? How are we doing? Shout out to y'all. Glad you're rocking with me, you know. Yeah, we're going to get into the Artie Ortiz. I think there's so much that needs to be said. You know, we ain't dealing with rumors, you know, looking at theories, you know, dealing with the Commonwealth's own paperwork, the stuff that they prayed nobody would ever really look closely at, man. But what's up, everybody? How are we doing today? We went over one of the statements earlier. What was it? Michael? Was that his name? Michael or Michel? I'm not really sure. Listen, man, according to these documents, I guess according to the documents, right? Not me, not the streets, not the internet, but Paul Dowling Sr., Paul Dowling Jr., Ryan Dowling, Artie Ortiz could not be excluded as contributors to some of the blood found at the crime scene. But if we translate that in English, we're going to get into that. The funny thing is, their blood profiles match the type of blood found inside the house. Not excluded, not ruled out, not eliminated. But the DA didn't even send their blood work over. Their blood never got tested. Did they test it? No. Did they compare it? No. Did they send it to Cellmark like they did with Eddie's blood? Absolutely not. They slammed the door. They slammed the door shut like a teenager hiding a bad report card. But man, if you rock with me, hit that like button, subscribe, you know, and grab a membership, gift a membership. Salute everybody. Yep, allegedly there was some jury tampering. Everything we're gonna get into, it should be in here as well, man. But yep. Hey, again, I'm back. We went to our daughter's appointment at the school. It was just them telling us, your daughter's great. We love her. She's a good kid. I'm like, yeah, okay. She is a great kid. You know what I mean? But we're her parents. We're supposed to think that. Well, yeah, they said she's doing very, very good. I know what they're going to say. She's slick, man. She knows how to. She's very manipulative. She knows how to get around the system. She's very conniving. You know, that was translated what they were trying to say. You know, I was like, thank you very much. My daughter said, you know, came home from school one day. She said, Dad, my friend said her mom told her, taught her how to, you know, dial 911. I said, what did you say? He said, my dad told me what to say if the cops come. No. Why you say that? They used to tell me that, and I used to say to myself, are we talking about the same child? Yeah, pretty much, you know. They always want to be polite, you know, but, yeah, teachers, they got a tough job. They got a tough, especially in this state of age. Teachers gotta get all the smoke. They get all the smoke. And so now that I'm a little older, a little bit wiser, you know, I'm on, you know, my fourth kid, so it's like, all right, now I kind of know. I'm kind of, you know, we get tired and we know the system. We know how the game's played. Shit. I remember taking report cards. I think I had F's. I turned them into B's. or no, the D's I turned into B's, and the F's I turned into A's. Well, I got caught because I forgot we had to return the report card to school. You know, and when my mom wrote that nice progress, I'm glad he's doing so great. And oh man, I got caught. Yeah, man. Shout out to the chat. Appreciate everybody. You know. But yeah, there's been a lot of shit going on that I noticed. Yeah, I think what's going on, you know, with Eddie O'Brien, you know, coming up, you know, stop reading his stuff. JFK covering, you know, the Artie Ortiz stuff. You know, I started getting into the truth about Eddie O'Brien. Started reading some of the notes. I transcribed some of the handwritten notes. I think I have it on my computer somewhere. But yeah, let me get this music off here and we'll talk about it a little bit. But man, wipe your feet. Don't forget, hit that like button. You know, don't be shy. Smash it. Subscribe. You know, if you really rock with us, you know, you can super chat or you can, you know, grab yourself a membership, give someone else a membership, you know. But today we're not dealing with rumors, we're looking at actual court paperwork. 30 years ago, like I said earlier, it's only fair that if there's something that's wrong with this case, do you want to have it, you know, do you want to get it right? I mean, I would, and I would think both sides, you know, maybe someone on the other side, you know, do you think the right man is locked up? But we're talking about some of the blood work that never made it to the lab, was never sent to the lab to be tested. To be honest, was never even sent. Oh, congratulations. 5 gifted memberships. So there's 5 people that get some memberships up in the chat at Crazy Mom, at Nina, at Wendy TN, at Pup7. Big shout out, 5 Can We Keep It Real podcast memberships. Salute, really appreciate that. I'll get back to that in a second. Yeah, but how do you go from 4 grown men all connected to the victim who can't be excluded from blood at the scene, and your first instinct is to refuse the DNA testing? I would think that if look, just give up the DNA. You know, if you're asked to give up the DNA, give it up and be tested if you want to find out. You know, and then we'll know 100% sure. They're saying there was no evidence to preclude to a third party. But that's not really science. That's not even due process. You know, it's fear on what the truth might say, fear of what results might show, right? Then they would have to admit that maybe, just maybe, you locked up the wrong person at 15 years old, right? So today, we're going to pull the curtain back. We're going to analyze some of these statements. You know, there's suspects that they didn't eliminate, they didn't even look at, and the truth that they didn't want the jury to hear. You know, I don't understand how things were thrown out. But if you're ready for the real breakdown, not the Commonwealth's bedtime story, you know, smash that like button, subscribe, grab a membership. You know, we're going to get into it because I don't think innocent doesn't expire, you know, and the truth don't expire either. The truth don't expire. Where are we here? Hang on. Okay. But yeah, go to the Truth About Eddie O'Brien website. There's a lot of information on there that you can look at, about Eddie. There's the timeline, what happened that evening, the interview with, is that Michael Baloney or is that Michel? I wasn't really too sure. The Commonwealth of Mass is corrupt. If you have a public defender, you're going to jail. Ooh. And that's, I could believe that somebody could say that. Absolutely. You know, I gotta say though, my experience with, I think, public defenders, I don't know, sometimes public defenders, they work in the courthouse with the same prosecutors every day. They're familiar with them. They're familiar with the judges. The problem with public defenders is their caseload is too big. Their caseload is just ridiculous. You know, and speaking of caseloads, like that's something else that the system don't want you to know. That right there, half the kids who walk into juvenile court, right? Not bad kids, not future criminals, kids who grew up watching chaos, fear, yelling, broken doors, broken trust, like most of us grew up. And then the system acts shocked, right? When the trauma shows up in their behavior. You take parents out of the household, you lock a lot of the parents up back in the 90s. Now you have all these kids that are coming up and they're demons. And you wonder why. You took all the hustlers and off the streets, right? And you left all the addicts to be out there raising these people. I mean, yeah, they were hustlers, they were doing what they were doing, but what did that help? you know and now we have a DYS system where programs have been cut. Sexual offender programs need to know, that's there, where are they, and there's just no oversight. In all these states, they love to talk about rehabilitation this and rehabilitation that, but that state is no different from this state. The programs that actually rehabilitate kids are gone. They're cut. They're defunded. No more like after school programs. No more, you know, the summer pools, stuff like that. So what are these kids going to do? They're going to rebel. One mistake, and yeah, absolutely. One mistake and they're screwed for life. And then you got the school to prison pipeline, which is a real thing, where they're putting these police officers in these schools, not to defend the school if there's an active shooter, because, that ain't why. They're doing it to help with the discipline, and the kids are getting arrested for just stupid things, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, childhood rehabilitation is the hottest right now. That's really where the money needs to be put in, preventing these young kids from offending, preventing these young kids from going to juvenile, custody, for getting in trouble. But what are we showing them? We're just getting on this internet and we're just fighting with each other and arguing with each other, and they're like sitting on the couch saying, you know what, Dad, you're no different than what you're telling me not to do. And I'm kind of like, you know what, you're right. Throwing shots at a friggin' sewer turtle that ain't worth 2 cents. That's just bottom of the barrel trash. And sometimes I just can't help myself, and that's when I had to take a lesson from a 12-year-old. and it's okay. So I mean, the system wants to slap a probation condition on anything to do. The system's just very, very screwed up. But we're gonna get into this. We're gonna talk about Paul Dowling Jr., his grand jury testimony. 1 second. I'll get to some of these comments in a minute. Yeah, we'll get into the Paul Dowling. 1 second. We'll get into the Paul Dowling grand jury testimony. And don't forget to go over there and check out that website, about, the truth about Eddie O'Brien. Yeah, welcome everybody, man. A lot of times the Commonwealth, man, you see how corrupt they can be. As I read all these documents, and it says something wild. Paul Dowling Sr., Jr., Ryan, Artie, right? They could not be excluded as contributors, right? Some of the blood found at the scene. Now, if I could translate that, right? The blood profiles matched the type of blood found inside the house, right? It didn't eliminate it, not rule it out, not exclude it, right? And what did the DA do with the information? Did they test it? No. Right? Did they compare it? No. Did they send it to Selmach? We already know all this. No, but Eddie's abso-friggin-lutely. Because when you test that blood, right, when you're comparing these samples, if you follow the science, the storylines, right, you might end up with answers that they didn't want. That they did not want. So the Commonwealth, they're going to love to act like their case was airtight. You know what I mean? Like they had the truth in a headlock, but like everything pointed to Eddie and only Eddie. The evidence is over here like, no, it didn't. Hello, I'm right here. I mean, you got 4 men all connected to the victims. Hello. You got an ex-husband that was like mad because she didn't want to be with him anymore, was like madly in love with her, head over heels, like things could have went crazy. You got a son that like allegedly just like kicked the shit out of her a night before. You got another daughter that's like kind of a little bit out of control. You got a brother-in-law allegedly you didn't trust. Hello. You got Gina Mahoney's statement. Hello. These blood profiles fit some of the samples found inside the house, but you wouldn't test it. And instead of saying, let's test this, right? Let's compare it. So we follow the truth wherever it leads. Why? Why not? Why did you say, nah, we're all set? I mean, I think this is huge. Right now, we're good. We don't need to look at that. That's not justice, man. That's not even due process, man. That's fear. and not FAIR. You're afraid. Afraid of what? That the truth would have said you screwed up the whole time. Fear of what the results might show. Fear of having to admit that maybe, just maybe, you screwed up and locked up the wrong person, a 15-year-old. But no, we can't go back on this. No matter what, we have to go forward, man. We're already in too deep. Is that what this was? You screwed up, so screw it. But now they're pulling the curtain back over there. They're exposing all types of lies that are coming out. And this is why nobody wants to talk. They don't want to talk about the blood they didn't test, the suspects that were never eliminated, because they didn't want the jury to hear the truth. Like, what the hell? Does innocence expire? Ever? It don't expire. So Paul Darwin's grand jury testimony. It's really light. I mean, almost empty. The first thing that jumps out is how little he actually says, right? So let's see. That's pretty much it. That's all he said. It's only one sheet. Now, at some point that evening, did you leave to go to Revere Beach? Yes, I did. Were you with his sister Jean? Yes, I was. Was your sister Erin gone for the night? Yes, she was. Where was she going? To the concert. Great Woods? Yeah. And at some point you went to Revere Beach and you came back? Yeah. Question. About 8 o'clock? Answer. Yes. And did you go into your house? Answer. Yes, I did. Question. For what purpose? To grab a bite to eat. And did you eat? Yes. That was basically, he says Eddie came over. He sat on the couch. That was basically his quote for a family member who was like schmurted that night. His testimony was pretty much thin. So what does he confirm? He left the house and he wasn't home for a chunk of time, right? He admits he left to go to Revere Beach with Jean, right? This is important because it removes him from the house, right? It takes him from the timeline. So now he can't account for who came or went. He can't confirm what happened inside the house. I mean, this is a big gap in the Darwin household timeline. He confirms, though, his sister, Erin, was gone for the night. He says Erin was at Great Woods. He confirmed that. So another person removed. Now, the Darwin home was not full of witnesses that night. People weren't going to be there. It usually was a revolving door with people coming and going, but the Commonwealth never even looked at that. So now he returns home about 8 o'clock, but gives no detail about what he saw, right? He came back about 8, right? Went inside, grabbed something to eat, right? That's it, no? Who was home? These are questions I would have wanted to know what the mood was. Was anything look disturbed? Did you see Janet? Did you see your father? Did you see your brother Ryan? Was he with Artie? Did you hear anything unusual? Nothing? I would have been asking him these questions. This is not how a normal witness talks when a murder happens of his parent, right? I mean, it really felt limited, the testimony, right? He answered only what he was asked, right? He didn't offer anything extra. He stayed away from any details, right? No context. Anything that could create a timeline. He knew what to answer and what not to answer in this. That's what I get out of this. And the Commonwealth didn't even push him. They didn't even challenge him. Did they ask follow-ups? Because that would have gave up more detail, more contradictions. I'm guessing. But what's missing is probably what's louder than said. What didn't he say? Paul Jr., right? Never mentions seeing Janet. Never mentions seeing his father, seeing Ryan, seeing Artie, hearing anything at all. No tension, no argument, no movement in the house at all. No timeline that could even help investigators. He gives zero information that helps reconstruct that night. I don't know. That is a problem. You have no information. But when you pair that, right, with the fact that Paul Sr., Paul Jr., Ryan, and Artie could not be excluded from the blood at the scene. I don't understand why the Commonwealth, like, you don't think you need to talk to these people? None of them DNA tested. None of them pressed on the timelines. Like, am I bugging? The DA refused comparison testing. How does it not paint a picture like of a protected group? This wasn't a fully investigated operation here. You know, it wasn't a full breakdown. Give me a minute, I'll go through some of these comments. They said he came out with a horrified look on his face like they've never seen. Right, exactly. That's in the I read that. That was in the Navy's paperwork. Give me 1 second and I'll take a look at that.
We living in a storm. You feel the heat. Cease and desist, the letters drop on the concrete. Yeah.
How many times they served them, count the notes again. Opponent can't say hi, yeah, we know the names cause they tend to pull that paper quick. It's a game they play. Palazzo, Murray, Braga, lawsuit on the way. Lawyer up cause the guilty got the shadiest moves. Hiding behind they titles while they take off they shoes.
Cease and desist, coming down like a fist. Teachers preaching right, but man, they don't get it. Keep it real on the podcast, we point the light. Show the world the truth, ain't no hiding from sight. Yo, Billy, don't you have some makeup to put on? Head into the shower room, but where's the truth gone? Anna Maria, what a tale to throw around. Social media buzzing, watch the drama resound. Sleeping around campus, are you set to teach? What example you setting your message out of reach? Man, teachers doing wrong, they get them on replay. Billy's game is so weak, send her back to the play. Predatory instincts, what's the lesson to learn? You think the tables turn when it's your turn to burn. Cease and desist, coming down like a fist. Teachers preaching right, but man, they don't get it. Keep it real on the podcast, we pouring the light. Show the world the truth, ain't no hiding from sight, yo. Cease and desist, coming down like a fist. Teachers preaching right, but man, they don't get it. Keep it real on the podcast, we point the light. Show the world the truth, ain't no hiding from sight.
Yo, special man with a word like restraining orders. One for his own daughter, ain't doing this supporters. Another level low, where morals just drift. Parenting's a skill, man, you miss that gift. It's a cycle of hurt, but he don't even see the damage that he does when you lack empathy.
Teachers should uplift, nurture and inspire, but we see the shadows and they rise ever higher. Look closely, don't ignore the cries of the youth. We gotta stand together, gotta fight for the truth. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cease and desist, echo through the halls they roam, but the truth won't be silenced from the kids finding home. It's a call to be better, let the past fall away. Pawn again, say hi, let them know we're here to stay. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yo, we living in a storm. You feel the heat. Cease and desist, the letters drop on the concrete.
Yeah.
How many times they served them, count the notes again. Phone again, say hi, yeah, we know the names cause they tend to pull that paper quick. It's a game they play, Palazzo, Murray, Rock.
Did they question the family at the police station? And they locked in on Eddie so fast. They locked in on Eddie like nothing. Like super, super fast. Just trying to get the right the 830 problem, right? Now, looking at Paul Dowling Jr.'s grand jury testimony, right? The Commonwealth's own transcript, right? And what I'm seeing, it's not the testimony of a grieving son. That's for sure. I mean, it's more like the testimony of someone giving the minimum. I mean, respect, but did you mail this in? The prosecutor asked him, right, what'd you eat when you got home? And this man says, a lollipop, I think it was. Like a lollipop? That's the detail that you remember of that night, a lollipop. Not like who was home, not what the house felt like, whether anything seemed off. Did you see your mother for the last time? Nope, a lollipop. They ask him, what time did you leave the house? 8:30. Now pause right there. Because according to the Commonwealth's timeline, if I'm not mistaken, Janet is supposed to be schmurdered right after this time, right? And here's her son leaving the house, walking out the front door, getting into the car, and driving off, right? While his mother's lying on the couch, sleeping. That's the word he used. Not injured, not distressed, not in danger, right? Not anything unusual, just sleeping. And the prosecutor don't push him. Don't ask a single follow-up question like, did she look normal? Was she okay? Did she respond to you when you left? Did you say bye, Mom? Did you give her a hug? Did you give her a kiss? Did you even speak to her or go in the room or physically see her? Did you check on her? Did you notice anything friggin' strange at all? Nothing? Nothing. They just move on. Huh? Okay. Then they ask him, was she alone? And he says, oh, she was alone. So let's get this straight. At 8:30 p.m., right, bro? At 8:30 p.m., the latest, according to him, right? His mom is alive, alone, and sleeping on the couch. Well, how do you know? You didn't check on her. You didn't see her. But the Commonwealth wants you to believe that Eddie, a 15-year-old kid, somehow left his porch, snuck into the house like a ninja, committed the schmurder, cleaned himself up like anything, like blood splatter galore. I'm definitely not getting monetized for this one. Galore, cleaned himself up, had a little piece, little speck on his knee, nothing. I'm sure they hit him with luminol, right? I'm sure they hit him with the light. Even if he did wash up, it would be all over him. The luminol would still show it. And so, and also, right, the super 15-year-old leaves no fingerprints. Really? No blood trail. And that's all in a matter of minutes without anybody seeing or hearing friggin' anything. Come on. But Paul Jr., right, who lived in the house, right, walked right past his mom, right? Right past her. At what time? Left her alone the exact time the Commonwealth claims the schmurder happened. Come on, man. This shit's being treated like a background character. No pressure. They didn't even have no scrutiny for him, no challenge, no anything, right? No timeline reconstruction. Am I crazy here? Am I ODing on jelly donuts? I think that's what JFK said the other day. But yo, like, really? Am I close to the timeline here? I mean, really? So I think the timeline is pretty damn pretty damn close, right? And this is why the case cracks open when you actually start reading the documents. Like Eddie said, if you follow the evidence, because the Commonwealth didn't investigate the Dowling household, they protected it. Why? Was it the O'Brien name? Was there a problem with the O'Briens? Like, I know the grandfather was a chief. Like, was it something that you didn't like? How did you not see these inconsistencies of the Darwin household and Artie Ortiz? The judge didn't even know who Artie Ortiz was. You ignored him. You didn't test the blood, right? That could not exclude multiple Darwin men. You refused to. You refused to. You refused to. And you got a 15-year-old kid that's been locked up for 30 years. They didn't push Paul Jr. on the timeline because the timeline collapses the moment you do. Are we breaking this down piece by piece, page by page? I don't know. The truth isn't hiding. It's sitting right there in the paperwork. And how did Paul George, whatever his name, not pick up on this? Are we ready for the next layer? You know, totally insane. Now you confirmed. Well, everyone's going for the night at the Great Woods concert, 8:30. That was the last time that the Mama Dukes was seen. So he says he came back home about 8 o'clock, went inside, grabbed something to eat. You know, who was home, who was there? Did you see your mom? Did you see your dad? You know, was Artie around? You know, very, very suspect. Very, very suspect. And then the letter of who was it? See, I actually think I even have this letter transcribed. Give me a minute to check. Hang on. It's in my files. So this is John Roberts' statement. Did I get the whole thing? Yep. My name is John Roberts. Do you have the document there, guys? Can you see it? Oh, no. Hang on. There it is. There we go. So John Roberts. John Roberts said he lives at let me get this off the screen. Hello, what's going on? Shout out. So yeah, John Roberts lives at 76 Boston Street in Somerville. His date of birth is 6/9/66. He goes on to say on Sunday, July 23rd. Damn it. That's better. Sunday that I had finished my babysitting job at her house and returned home at 8:15. I then went next door to my neighbor's house, the O'Briens. Ed O'Brien, young Ed, Mary, and myself and 2 children were all sitting on the O'Briens' front porch. Shortly after arriving at the O'Briens, I saw Paul Dowling walking in front of the house. Ed O'Brien Sr. said hello to Paul, and Paul waved back with a very peculiar look on his face. At 8:45 p.m., I looked at my watch, and I decided it was time to return home. So, young Ed helped me by carrying my son Timothy to our house. Ed did not see what direction Ed went after this, but I am sure that the time was just after 8:45 p.m. I have made this statement to Scott Kelly, who has identified himself as a private investigator. I have not been threatened or promised any reward, and it's the truth to the best of my knowledge. So that was from the neighbor John. You know, that was from the neighbor John. No fluff, no speculation, just the contradictions speak for themselves. The 8:30 verse 8:45 conflict. You know, that's a timeline the Commonwealth couldn't fix. John Roberts at 8:45, neighbor on the porch, right? A handwritten statement. He returns home at 8:15. Right? He sat on the O'Brien's porch with Ed Sr., young Ed, Mary, and the two kids. He saw Paul Darwin walking by. They said Paul had a very funny look on his face. That's when they said he had that crazy, crazy look, you know. At 8:45, Roberts looked at his watch and decided to go home. Young Ed helped him carry his son. So young Ed went from, helping carrying his son. And the whole thing is like the lie detector test, the luminol test, no blood on him. Why didn't any of the Darwin's blood or Artie's get sent to the lab? Why was any of it tested? And this is an alibi, by a neutral neighbor. And I'm just reading off what the reports say, what the Times says, what the stuff that was not looked at in the past, what that stuff says. That's all we're looking at. We ain't trying to create any other narrative. Hang on, let me find another one here. So now we showed you Paul Darwin. We went to the interview with Michel Baloney or Michael, I'm not sure. Paul Darwin Jr., his grand jury testimony. Paul Darwin Jr.'s second testimony. John Roberts' letter. And now we're going to see there's witness reports about Eddie leaving the house. So give me a second to just get this uploaded.
So T is recorded.
So this is witness Joe Fitzpatrick, Dion, and Abreu, I believe. These three boys, John Fitzpatrick, Seth, and Mako, are some of the only neutral non-family witnesses, right, who physically approached the Darwin house that night. And their statements blew a hole straight through the prosecutor's timeline. Let's walk through this, right? Summary of John Fitzpatrick, Seth Dion, and Mako Abreu. Witness reports and testimony. And how you saying I'm wrong and I'm reading official paperwork? Like, this is what I'm going by. I ain't making up any kind of theory. So how am I wrong? At about 9:15 to 9:20 p.m., John, Seth, and Mako, they knock on the front door of the Darwin house. The door was open, but the screen door was shut. John went into the foyer area and then knocked on the foyer door that was closed. They heard a noise on the side street of the Darwin house and made their way to the street. They saw a male exiting the Darwin backyard and walked down the street. They thought it was Eddie and yelled down the hill to him. They did not receive a response. John, Seth, and Mako then went over to the O'Brien house to call the Dowan house, but received no response. They then went to their friend Gavi's home. Right? Can we walk through this? So they arrive at the Dowan home between 9:15 and 9:20, right? This is after Paul Jr. left at 8:30, right? Let me quarterback this. Robert saw Eddie on the porch at 8:45. The Commonwealth claims the murder, which I'm not getting monetized for this anyway, man. They're gonna be like, no, all the things that they don't want you to say. The murder already happened. So by the time these boys showed up, right, the prosecution says Janet's already unalive. But when they describe what they describe, right, don't really match a house where this murder just occurred. The front door is open. They knock on the front door. The main door is open. Only the screen door is shut. Let that sink in a little. A murder supposedly happening inside this home. The front door is wide open. No cops, no chaos, right? Nobody yelling, right? No splatter anywhere. No sign of a struggle, right? Just an open door, huh? So John claims he walked into the foyer, right? He doesn't just knock. He steps inside the house, into the foyer, and he knocks on the inner door. He would have heard something, right? No? He would have seen something. Smell anything? Anything? Any of your five senses? Nothing? Your spider senses? Nothing? Nothing seemed off, huh? Boy, that's strange. Because that alone, I think, devastated to the Commonwealth's timeline. They hear a noise, right? They see a male leaving the backyard, right? This is the part right here that prosecution never wanted the jury to hear. They hear a noise on the side street, right? They walk towards the noise, really? You see a male exiting the Dowan backyard, walking down the street. They think it's Eddie and they yell at him. But the person does not respond. That's what you said. That's what you said. The person don't respond. That's important, though. Keep that in mind. Because Eddie always responds to these boys, right? He grew up with them. He ain't the type to ignore them, right? So either the person they saw was not Eddie. Maybe someone else was leaving the Dowan property, right? Maybe someone the Commonwealth never even identified. Because somebody who has no reason to respond, right? That's the mystery man the prosecution pretends don't exist. So now they go to the O'Brien's house and they try calling the Dowans, right? They walk over to Eddie's house, right? They try calling the house, right? No answer. Why? Because Janet is already unalive. The phone's off the hook. Or someone inside don't want to answer. Either way, that should be another red flag, right? The door was open, you stuck your head in, you didn't see anything, you didn't hear anything. Like, this is all within the timeline. I think the real problem should have been the 8:30 p.m. if we put it together, right? Paul Jr. leaves his mom, right, on the couch. Is she alive? You don't know. I don't know. Yeah. 8:45, right? Robert sees Eddie on the porch. We already know that. You've seen the letter. 9:15 to 9:20, the three boys walk in to the Darwin foyer, right? They hear a noise. In the foyer, they hear a man in the backyard. So from the foyer, they heard a man in the backyard. Does that make sense? From the foyer? Okay. So now they get no response, right? When they yell, hey, what's going on? Anybody in here? Nothing. They try calling the house, no answer. None of this matches the prosecution's timeline. None of it. The Commonwealth needed the murder to happen around 8:30 to 8:40. But guess what? Janet is alive and well at 8:30. Eddie's on his porch at 8:45. So now that leaves 5 minutes. And the mystery man is leaving the backyard at 9:15 to 9:20. The house is open and quiet. Nobody answers the phone, right? No one sees Eddie anywhere near the Darwin home. And this is why their timeline collapses. I'll try to get the Downing family correct. But I think this timeline is like pretty much on point because at 9:15, 9:20, remember the three boys walked right up to the Downing house. The front door was open. They had gifted another 5 gift memberships. Awesome, man. Congratulations to the 5 people receiving memberships. And we're going to start doing, in May, I believe, we'll start doing members only live streams.
It's May 1st.
Oh, it is May 1st. Oops. Happy May. Maybe tomorrow morning we'll do our first members only live stream. But at 9:15, 9:20, the boys walk right up to the Downing house. The front door's open. The foyer was quiet. And a man, not Eddie, was seen leaving the backyard, right? This is after Paul Jr. left his mother alive at 8:30. And after Eddie was seen on his porch at 8:45, the Commonwealth's timeline doesn't survive this. The evidence don't match their theory. And the truth is sitting right there in their own witness statement. And now connect this to a Rule 30 argument, and you're good to go. Connect that to the Rule 30 design, and you straight. All right, let's see what else. We had the alibi, right? Eddie leaves his house. We have David and Ann Lee, their testimony. Give me a second. I gotta pull up David and Ann Lee. pull up this statement. Let's see. Okay, here we have it. A big shout out to Miss Christina with a $49.99 super chat. Justice for Janet and free Eddie.
No, nice.
That is like awesome. I'm like, yo, appreciate that. You know, $49.99. Appreciate that. You know, we gotta I get something up there for the yeah, thank you, man. I really, really appreciate that. You know, justice for Janet and also free Eddie. Yeah, we'll go through all of the notes. I think I also seen the notes from the principal as well. You know, shout out to Jay Brill. You know, shout out to everybody rocking in the chat today. You know, really appreciate it. You know, so you know, I think JFK has a good handle on the Artie situation. So I figured, you know what? Let's break down some of these statements. Because looking at these timelines, like it's very suspect. There's a lot of things that are very, very suspect going on here. And just give the guy a fair trial. That's all. Give him a fair trial. Why didn't you test the blood? You know, an overzealous husband, you know, you got jury tampering. We have a nice chat and we make sure the people in the chat make sure it stays nice as a safe place, you know, when no one violating. You know, we see Turtle Boy doing enough violating, you know, but here we go. We're going to talk about the David Lee, you know, his statement. Where are you now? Okay, it says homicide Janet on July 24th, 95 at approximately 1100 hours. This officer spoke with a resident of 36 Hamlet Street, Ann Lee. She stated that she was home on the night of July 23rd of 95 from approximately 8:30 p.m. on. She didn't hear anything outside the house until police and ambulances went to 71. Her son David was home too. On July 24th at 11:40 hours, this officer spoke with David Lee. He stated that he also got home at 36 Hamlet at about 8:30 p.m. and was watching TV. He was in the bathroom with the window open around 9:30 to 9:45 and heard voices in the street. He thought the two males were saying something like, "What are you doing here? Get the hell out of here." He said he thought he heard one person running. Wow. Interesting. Very, very interesting. You know, what are you doing here? Get the hell out of here. He also thought he heard one person running. So basically, we're talking about the timeline, the 8:30, 9:30 time at the moment the Commonwealth pretended don't exist. Because while prosecutors are busy trying to squeeze their story into 8:30, 8:40 window, right? The neighborhood was telling a different story at this point. Let me read you something straight from the state police report, their own paperwork, not mine. Between 9:30 and 9:45, a neighbor named David Lee hears two male voices outside, not whispers, not casual conversation. He hears, "What are you doing here? Get the hell out of here." And then he hears running. Now pause right there, because according to the Commonwealth, the schmurder is already done. Right? The one who did it is long gone. The house is quiet. Nothing is happening. Right? Really? But the neighborhood, oh, they're hearing men arguing. They're hearing men yelling. They're hearing men running. This isn't Eddie O'Brien sitting quietly on a porch. This is two grown men in a confrontation right near the Downing home, 40 to 50 minutes after the prosecution claims the murder happened. And the Commonwealth never explained that, never addressed it, did they? Did you ever hear about it? Did they tell the jury about it? Why? Because it blows their shit to pieces. It blows their timeline up. They can't say anything about it. I mean, I couldn't believe when everything started clicking here. Paul Jr. leaves his mom allegedly right alive at 8:30 p.m. on the couch. At 8:45, you got John Roberts. He sees Eddie sitting on his porch. That's at 8:45. This is supposed to be when it's going down. 9:15 to 9:20, three boys see a male leaving the Downing backyard who ignores them when they all yell, "Eddie!" 9:30 to 9:45, a neighbor hears two men arguing and then somebody running away. Come on, this ain't the behavior of a single teenage illa. This isn't not the quiet aftermath of a schmurder. Are you telling me you think this is the movement Voices conflict running? And then multiple adult males near the Downing property. And remember now, the Commonwealth's own lab said multiple Downing men could not be excluded from blood found at the scene. Multiple Downing men could not be excluded from blood found at the scene. But instead of testing that blood, instead of investigating these 9:30 voices, instead of asking who was running, they looked onto a 15-year-old boy and they never looked back. They never looked back. Shit, when you put that 8:30 testimony together, and then you got the Eddie on the porch at 8:45, shit, 9:15, dude's in the backyard, right? And then 9:30, they're shouting and running. I mean, Rule 30 hearing, how does it not happen? The Commonwealth's timeline doesn't just crack. It collapses at that point. And then put that with the timeline that JFK and them guys were putting together. And where are we? Because Turtle Boy has bots. Them are not real subscribers. That 163,000 is not real. That's not a real number. I could be up to a thousand subs if I want. I could just buy them. But the number's not real. It'll get there. I'm happy with the 678 subs that I have. Salute to all y'all. And if you don't sub, smash that subscribe button now. Have some friggin' respect and hit that like button. Corruption lives smack in front of us. That's how they do it. But yeah, that's exactly how it goes down. That's how they do it. I put the work in. I ain't with the code. Good for you. We can only hope. You know what I mean? We can only hope. Eddie should be walking out these doors. I mean, 30 years, 31 years. I mean, I say either way, I think 31 years is a lot of time. Give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. Thank you for the memberships. Gift them memberships. Really appreciate it. We got 31 people in the building. I'm happy with that. I ain't greedy. You know what? I'm happy with the people that are here now. But give me 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, we gon' take a moment before we dive in.
Let me show some love,
Yeah,
flow.
Turn on the stream, feel the energy rise. Shout out to the fam, the ones in the skies. Every comment, every laugh keeps the vibe alive. You're the heartbeat of the chat, yeah, we thrive. Pulling up each night, ready to roll. You make this place lit. Body and soul, vibes in the back, heavy lifting, they don't play. Keeping it smooth, watching traffic every day. Peacekeepers on alert, holding down the fort. Crew full of love, every stream they support. To the chat, to the crew, yeah, we shine bright. Are the backbone of the night, holding us tight. To the members, true believers, making it real. You're the pulse in our heart, let's do the deal. To the chat, to the crew, yeah, we shine bright. Are the backbone of the night, holding us tight. To the members, true believers, making it real. You're the pulse in our heart, let's do the deal.
We see you dedicated, going the extra mile. Not just watching you invested. That's the style.
Lights on, vibe strong, every show's a hit. Community together, can't take a minute to quit. You keep us going, no watered down vibe. From the chest to the miles, no we thrive.
Major respect to the ones who keep it clean. Clean up crew rolling, y'all know what I mean. Don't try it today, they say with a glance. Bringing peace to the chaos, giving us a chance. To the chat, to the crew, yeah we shine bright. Y'all the backbone of the night, holding us tight. To the members, true believers, making it real. You're the pulse in our heart, let's do the deal. To the chat, to the crew, yeah we shine bright. You're the backbone of the night, holding us tight. Just know this is true. We appreciate every single one of you. This is our moment, community's the key. Let's get it poppin', let's set the stream free. So here's to the chat mods and members like, oh, you're the heart of the stream and that's never getting old. Now let's get into it, yeah, we ride on time. With you by our side, every night's a prime.
Yeah, we out here holding it down. This community's love, wear it like a crown.
I appreciate everybody, that tunes in, But yeah, I was thinking about this timeline and I was like, and I was listening to, the timeline that JFK was putting together. And I was like, that timeline and this timeline, you throw that stuff in that motion. You know, now you got 6:15 and 6:20. You got the Balani witness, right? That witnesses that they see Janet Downing alive, upset, you know, moves her car several times, smoking outside, you know, before going in, confirms they see her alive, and that's at 6:15. Then 8:15 p.m., you got John Roberts returns home from babysitting, sits on the O'Brien porch with Eddie Sr., young Ed, and other kids. So we know Eddie's there. At 8:30 p.m., Paul Jr.'s inside the house, leaves the house, says Janet is alive and well, sleeping and alone. Sees Eddie on his porch. At 8:45, the neighbor, Mr. Roberts, looks at his watch, sees Eddie still on the porch, sees Paul Dowling walking by him with a very strange look on his face, one that they have never seen. At 9:15 to 9:20, you got the friends, right? Fitzpatrick, the Dion, a Brew, you know, Jet, Set, John, Seth, and Marco, right? They see the front doors open on the foyer. They hear noise from the foyer in the yard. You know, they said they yelled to him. At first, they said it wasn't Eddie until they had to testify it was. David Lee, right? He hears two male voices arguing. What are you doing here? Get the hell out of here. Right? That was at 9:30 to 9:45. See, the timeline collapse when you put these together. Because here's the truth the Commonwealth never wanted the jury to see. At 6:20, Janet's alive and well. At 8:30, Janet's alive at 8:30 p.m. Eddie's on the porch at 8:30. So now it just gives 10 minutes for this all to go down. And Eddie's still on the porch at 8:45. So we're down to 5 minutes for the miracle. Eddie O'Brien. A man is leaving the Downing backyard at 9:15 to 9:20. Two men are arguing and running at 9:30 to 9:45. This is not the timeline of a 15-year-old committing a silent solo murder. This is the timeline of multiple males near the scene, movement in and out of the property. What else? A confrontation, right? A man seen running away. A house that's never quiet is left open and quiet. This was a chaotic house. A phone that goes unanswered, right? And a prosecution that ignored every one of these witnesses that we talked about today. We got more. Eddie ran into the killer, looked up at the Michael Sullivan case. Same exact situation as Eddie. I swear they just took Eddie's name out and put Michael Sullivan in. Wild. I'm gonna check that out, the Michael Sullivan. Yeah, absolutely. Free Eddie. And that's what it should be. We should all be working together, you know, going over different parts of the case, you know, trying to help people that were done wrong by the system. I mean, this timeline can't survive the questioning. You look at Paul Downing Jr., right? Mr. Downing, you testified you left your home at 8:30 p.m. The latest, correct. Paul Jr. says yes. And when you left, your mom was alive, sleeping and alone, right? Yes. And you saw Eddie O'Brien sitting on the porch? Yes. So as of 8:30, Eddie's on the porch and your mom's alive, and that's your testimony. Yep. Then they go to the next witness, John Roberts. Mr. Roberts, you were sitting on the O'Brien porch that night? Yes. And at 8:45, you looked at your watch? Yes. At that moment, you saw Eddie O'Brien still on that porch, right? Yes. And you also saw Downing walking by with a funny look on his face? Yes. So at 8:45 p.m., Eddie is still on his porch, not entering or leaving the Downing home? Roberts answers, correct. Now if we get to the three friends, John, Seth, and Mako. The defense questions him. You three approached the Downing house between 9:15 and 9:20, correct? He answers yes. The front door was open, only the screen door was shut. Witnesses answer yes. You walked into the foyer. Witness answers yep. And you heard a noise on the side street. Witness answers yes. And you saw a male leaving the Downing backyard? Yes, says the witness. And you thought it was Eddie and yelled to him? The witness said, yeah. But the person didn't respond? Correct. So whoever that man was, he was leaving a Downing property at 9:15 to 9:20. And he was not Eddie O'Brien? And the witness says correct. So now you got David Lee, the Hamlin Street resident. Mr. Lee, between 9:30 and 9:45, you heard two male voices outside. Yes. You heard one say, what are you doing here? Get the hell out of here. Yes. And you heard running. Yes. So at 9:30, you heard multiple adult males arguing and running near the Downing home? Yes. Like, how in the world did they get a conviction? You guys have to read that case study. Eddie can refer to the Sullivan case. I would love to see it. Eddie can get in front of a judge next week. Just have Margot read the Michael Sullivan case, or she will know how to file it and what to say. So then the closing question, the one that collapses the case should have really been, ladies and gentlemen, let's put this together. The defense goes on to say, at 8:30, Janet is alive. Eddie is on his porch. At 8:45, Eddie's still on his porch. At 9:30 to 9:45, two men are arguing and running near the Downing home. The defense says, Mr. Roberts, John, Seth, Marco, Mr. Lee, can any of you place Eddie O'Brien inside the Downing home at any time that night? All the witnesses all said no. Can any of you explain who the man was leaving the backyard at 9:15 p.m.? All the witnesses say no. Can any of you explain the two men arguing and running at 9:30 p.m.? All the witnesses again say no. Then the Commonwealth's timeline is impossible and this conviction cannot stand. And that's what it should have been. Don't know how they got a conviction on this case. Don't know how other people were not looked at, were not interviewed. You know, it's totally crazy. Totally crazy. Give me a minute. I'm going to pull something up. I'm going to pull something up right now.
Yeah. Another round. Let's go. When every breakup ends in flames, but when you know. Yeah. Yo, when every split starts a war, it's no surprise. Every exit target got that chip on my eyes. Carolina Lindsay, all smooth like butter. But Meredith, nah, she climbed out the gutter. She didn't play the game, she flipped the script. Leaked messages hit hard like a cruise sun whip. Yo, Duxton on the rise, they spilling my tea. It's easier to blame her when you can't even see.
You're the common denominator. Ain't the ones who left. It's the mindset you wear. It's the rage you've kept. When every breaker's about to blame. Some waiting flames. When every lover's gonna eat the problem in this twisted game. Look at the record, see the lies they tell. I'm ready to talk now. Can't you see she ain't fell? Yeah.
Can't you see she ain't fell? Courts and filings like it's all a show, huh? Public meltdowns, master latest and low. Wanna paint her a villain when she spoke the truth. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, you pull all the sleuths. These tactics is classic, turning friends into foes. I see the problem when your shadows will grow. Every woman that leaves, nah, it ain't their fault. Why can't you see the cycle, man? You built this fault, yo.
When you play her for a fool, make her chest move blind. You just flex that narrative, see the way it unwinds. When every breakup's about to play, each moment lit in flames. When every lover suddenly the problem in this twisted game. Look at the record, see the lies they tell. I'm ready to tall and proud. Can't you see she ain't fell?
Yeah. Can't you see she ain't fell? So here's the lesson if you dare to engage. When the cycle of blame is just part of the stage. Remember, merge the one who didn't take the heat. When the common denominator's you, don't you dare hit repeat. Can't you see she ain't fell? Another round. Let's go. When every breakup ends in flames, but when you know. Yeah. Yo, when every split starts a war, it's no surprise. Every exit target got that chip on my eyes. Carolina Lindsay, all smooth like butter. But Meredith, nah, she climbed out the gutter. She didn't play the game, she flipped the script. Leaked messages hit hard like a cruise sun whip. Yo, Duxton on the rise, they spilling my tea. It's easier to blame her when you can't even see.
You're the common denominator. Ain't the ones who left. It's the mindset you wear. It's the rage you've kept. When every breaker's about to blame. Some waiting flames. When every lover's gonna eat the problem in this twisted game. Look at the record, see the lies they tell. I'm ready to talk now. Can't you see she ain't fell? Yeah.
Can't you see she ain't fell?
causing violence like it's all a show. Public meltdowns, master latest and low. Wanna paint her a villain when she spoke the truth. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, you pull all the loose. These tactics is classic, turning friends into foes. I see the problem when your shadows will grow. Every woman that leaves, nah, it ain't their fault. Why can't you see the cycle, man? You built this vault, yo.
When you play it for a fool, make a chess move blind.
Okay, we back. Losing my voice here. We back now. I got a police report up on the screen. It's definitely enough. Should be able to get him a new hearing. You know, but let's break down a police officer's report. I think this is Officer Stephen Johnson. You know, so boom. Make sure you hit that like button, you know, and hit them goals up. There's some goals up there at the top of the screen. It's only 10 goals. I think it's like $2, man. Buy your boy a coffee. You know, but the cops pull up to 71 Boston Street, right? Because dispatch says someone's bleeding over there. You know, they don't say a woman's been, you know, not a possible schmurder, you know, just a man's bleeding, right? So already the story ain't storying, right? Like the math ain't mathing. Who greased the cops, right? Now who do you expect, right? When the officers get there, who's outside waving them in? Ed O'Brien Sr. and Barry Reckley. Not Paul Sr., not Ryan. You think, oh, you know, not anybody from the Downing house. Where are you? Why are you not like, yo, get in here? My mother, yo, I would have been running down the street. That's weird, right? It's a schmurder just happened in your house. Why are the neighbors the ones greeting the popos? I mean, why? They walk in and find Janet in the dining room. Now, the report says she's on her back, her arms were out, her head was turned, and her shorts was pulled aside. Her underwear was exposed, and multiple wounds everywhere. But the part that matters, no one in that house called 911. No one in that house called 911. Like, whoa, stop. It's an emergency. Shout out to Oxy, man. Welcome. It's an emergency. No one inside the Downing home called for help. The call came in as a man bleeding, and the people who met the cops were not the people who lived in that house. That's not normal. That's not normal at all. The cops don't mention any signs of a forced entry, right? No broken doors. No busted locks. There wasn't nothing kicked in. So whoever did this, right, they wanted in like they belonged there. Or the door was already open. Or they were let in. They were allowed to be there. Which matches what the boys saw at 9:15. The front door was wide open. The screen door was shut. The timeline is not matching the prosecution's story, is it? Line it up. 8:30 p.m. Paul Jr. says, Mom's alive and well, sleeping and alone on the couch. At 8:45, Robert sees Eddie on the porch. How is the timeline mathing? Like, help me figure this shit out. At 9:15 to 9:20, the three boys see a man leaving the backyard. At 9:30 to 9:45, the neighbors hear two men arguing and running, right? Someone says, "What the hell are you doing here?" Now ask yourself, how did a whole murder happen in a house that's full of people, right? All types of people outside, right? But nobody heard a damn thing until the 5 show up? And why did the call come in as a man bleeding when the only person bleeding was a woman? I mean, who said that? Who reported that? Who did they think it was? A man. The report don't explain it. The cops don't even mention seeing Eddie Jr. anywhere. Not in the house, not outside, right? Not running, not hiding. He ain't covered in blood somewhere. Not acting suspicious, nothing. The only Eddie they mention is Eddie Sr., the dad. So how did the Commonwealth magically decide that the man for this job was a 15-year-old kid who wasn't even there when the 5-0s arrived? So let's get this straight. The cops showed up to the murder scene, right? And the first people they see is not the family. It's Eddie Sr. and Barry from next door, right? So they call him in as a man bleeding, but the only person bleeding's not a man, right? The door ain't kicked in. There's no forced entry. The family didn't call 911. And the cops don't see Eddie Jr. anywhere, right? Don't you think the family should have been front and center? Yo, my mom. But somehow the Commonwealth says a 15-year-old kid, all this in silence like a friggin' ninja, left no trail and vanished, passes a friggin' lie detector test, passes a truth serum test. Really? Oh, and he still did it. Make that shit make sense for me, please. Let that make sense. Like, to even think that that's possible. He says, as I spoke to the two men in the living room of the home, very near the way, I observed that the water was running in that bathroom sink. This room was located at the end of the hallway near a set of stairs leading to the second floor. Also, I observed a stain of what appeared to be blood on the second floor. Confident leading up to the stairs on the third step. There was also a second blood stain. This one was located on the wood trim surrounding the entrance to the dining room. It was approximately 3 feet from the floor. Car 207 Sergeant Firmino and car 188 Sergeant Stanford arrived, and I filled them in what we had so far. Sergeant Stanford went outside and spoke to Ryan Downing. After he'd been outside for several minutes, and Ryan Downing, Sergeant Stanford, and me outside to stay with Downing while he went in the house. From this point on, I was never inside the house again. After 10 or 15 minutes from our arrival on Boston Street, I monitored the radio call for an armed robbery and stabbing at the Midnight Variety store in Union Square. At that time, the call did not make any connection for me to the incident we were dealing with. However, when Mr. Eddie O'Brien told me that the victim of the armed robbery at the Midnight Variety store has his son, and that his son had a stab wound to his hand, I relayed that information to the sergeant. Okay, that was Officer Johnson's report. The cross-examination of Anthony Stamauskas by Mr. George. One second, I'm putting this up on the screen. And I hope I explained a lot with these testimonies and stuff and the timeline that we broke down. So let's check this next document out. Of Anthony Stamtoris by Mr. George. And sir, do you remember the trooper? Let's see. Give me 1 second, get that shit out of there. Oops. Another one there. Bam. Trying to get it all done. What the hell? Hey, there it is. There it is. Okay, so I'm probably going to break this up into an episode. So, quick disclaimer: the views and opinions are just that. They're just our opinions, our belief. This is for entertainment purposes only. Salute to the chat. Populate them goals. So we can continue to bring you, episodes like this and more. Let's get into this. But before we get into this breakdown, definitely, again, wipe your feet, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're just joining us. And if you really rock with us, go ahead and, gift a membership. Hook your boy up. We're going to talk about the 10 p.m., the time that the Commonwealth pretended didn't even exist. I mean, I think we crushed the Commonwealth's timeline I think their timeline is totally screwed up because sitting right here in these trial transcripts, there was a witness named Anthony. Anthony. Oh, let me get this shit out of here. Damn it. Get out of here. Get out of here. We're looking for Anthony. Anthony. So there we go. We got a witness named Anthony. What? Stam Torres? And what he says on the cross examination, I think you really should have blew this shit open, right? The prosecutor wants you to believe that the murder happened, right, around 8:30 p.m. See, now it's changing a little bit, kind of. You see the shit like the Karen Reed trial? They want to change the time, change the narrative. They want you to believe that Eddie, right, a 15-year-old kid, a friggin' super ninja, left his porch, right, snuck into the Downing house, committed a schmurder, right, left no fingerprints, no bloody trail, right, blood splatter, had to be crazy, cleaned himself up, returned home, all without anybody seeing the great ninja. But then here comes Anthony. Anthony. And under oath, he says he saw a man going over a fence near the Downing property at around 10 p.m. I don't think Eddie's climbing a fence. I mean, 300 pounds. I just don't see it. Not 8:30, not 8:45, not even 9:15, 10 o'clock. And when the defense asked him, "Did you tell the police that the man you saw was Eddie O'Brien?" He said, "I didn't know who it was." Then the defense presses him. "Do you recognize Eddie from the neighborhood?" He says, "No, I didn't." But he did recognize Eddie's picture, meaning he knew who Eddie was, and he still didn't identify the fence jumper as Eddie, right? I mean, let me translate that for the people way in the back, that might have Ratatouille issues. A man was fleeing the area at about 10 o'clock, and it wasn't Eddie. Now, let's line this up with the rest of the timeline, right? 8:30 p.m. Paul Jr. leaves mom alive on the couch. Capiche? 8:45 p.m. John Roberts sees Eddie on the porch. 9:15 to 9:20 p.m. The three boys see a man leaving the Downing backyard who ignores them when they yell, "Eddie!" 9:30 to 9:45, a neighbor hears two people yelling and running, right? And now 10 o'clock, Anthony sees a man going over a fence. Eddie is not going over a fence. This is not a silent one and done murder. I mean, there's movement here. There's noise. There's multiple men. And there's somebody taking off nearly an hour after the Commonwealth claims this shit even happened. And they got a conviction? They didn't call Anthony as a witness either. They didn't even build their timeline, or they didn't call him as a star witness. They didn't build their timeline around Anthony. They didn't even try to explain who that man was, because that man didn't exist. They couldn't. Because the moment you acknowledge a 10 p.m. fence jumper, the entire case against Eddie collapses. Poosh, gone. So we're putting the friggin' truth back on the table. A man was seen running away from the area at 10 p.m. he wasn't Eddie. He wasn't even identified. He wasn't investigated, and the jury never heard the full weight of what that means. Of course, they didn't. This is why the timeline doesn't work. And this is why the conviction isn't reliable. And this is why Eddie O'Brien deserves a Rule 30 hearing. Even the haters can't say he don't. I mean, come on, if you're ready for the next layer, man, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, grab a membership, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. I mean, how can you not go with a Rule 30 argument? Capiche? Please hit the like button and sub, Capiche? We ain't talking about Capicio either. I brought you all the witness statements today from the trial. Let's go, Eddie. We had the cross exam of Anthony Stamtoris. Officer Stephen Johnson's report. We talked about that. Ryan Downan's testimony. David and Ann Lee's testimony. They testified independent witnesses to corroborate the alibi timeline. We had the alibi for Eddie leaving home, John Roberts' letter, Paul Darwin Jr., again, the interview with Balani, and then we're gonna jump into the fingerprint analysis, the denial of DNA and other suspects, and this is all stuff that is gonna help this dude's motion. The Porgy connection. Eddie is currently housed in Gardner Correctional. I think you can go online and actually get his email if you want to write him. Let him know that you support him. Denial, exculpatory evidence, locations. Let's see. Oh, here was the juror. Let's look at the juror misconduct. Oh. Hang on.
His DNA was never found under her nails. It was somebody else.
So the juror misconduct. Let's see. Yeah, it was definitely. We've been out here 2 hours. Appreciate everybody. Maybe later on, we'll put some more together and come out here and get to it. But timeline definitely don't add up, man. But I appreciate everybody, man. If you like the content, populate one of them goals that's up at the top of the screen. Hit the like button. Subscribe. But let's go edit, man. That timeline does not match. Go back, watch that. Somebody wants to clip up some of them. I appreciate it. Clip it. Inbox it to me. If you want to clip them and share on Twitter, by all means, appreciate that. Yes, Eddie's currently at God now. So happy Friday to everybody. Eddie definitely needs this help, so check out the timeline and let me know. Let me know what y'all think. I think Artie was already in there saying that I'm lying. I'm so lying. We're going by the official court documents, bro. How am I lying? If I'm lying, you dying. But okay, man. Appreciate everybody. We out of here. Thank you.
Yeah. Another round. Let's go. When every breakup ends in flames, but when you know. Yeah. Yo, when every split starts a war, it's no surprise. Every exit target got that chip on my eyes. Carolina Lindsay, all smooth like butter. But Meredith, nah, she climbed out the gutter. She didn't play the game, she flipped the script. Leaked messages hit hard like a cruise sun whip. Yo, Dawson on the rise, they spilling my tea. It's easier to blame her when you can't even see.
You're the common denominator. Ain't the ones who left. It's the mindset you wear. It's the rage you kept. When every breaker's about to blame. It's no waiting flames. When every lover's gonna eat the problem in this twisted game. Look at the record, see the lies they tell. I'm ready to talk now. Can't you see she ain't fell? Yeah.
Can't you see she ain't fair? Courts and filings like it's all a show, Public meltdowns, master latest and low. Wanna paint her a villain when she spoke the truth. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, you pull all the sleuths. These tactics is classic, turning friends into foes. I see the problem when your shadows will grow. Every woman that leaves, nah, it ain't their fault. Why can't you see the cycle, man? You built this vault, yo.
When you play her for a fool, make her chest move blind. You just flex that narrative, see the way it unwinds. When every breakup's about to blaze, each moment lit in flames. When every lover suddenly the problem in this twisted game. Look at the record, see the lies they tell. The red stood tall and proud. Can't you see she ain't fell?
Yeah. Can't you see
she ain't fair?
So here's the lesson if you dare to engage. When the cycle of blame is just part of the stage. Remember, merge the one who didn't take the heat. When the common denominator's you, don't you dare hit repeat.
Can't you see she ain't fair?
Yeah, another round. Let's go. When every breakup ends in flames, but when you know. Yeah. Yo, when every split starts a war, it's no surprise. Every exit target got that chip on my eyes. Carolina Lindsay, all smooth like butter. But Meredith, nah, she climbed out the gutter. She didn't play the game, she flipped the script. Leaked messages hit hard like a cruise sun whip. Yo, Duxton on the rise, they spilling my tea. It's easier to blame her when you can't even see.
You're the common denominator. Ain't the ones who left. It's the mindset you wear. It's the rage you've kept. When every breaker's about to blame. Waste no waiting flames. When every love is won't lead to a problem in this twisted game. Look at the record, see the lies they tell. I'm already stood tall now. Can't you see she ain't fair? Yeah.
Can't you see she ain't fair?
Courts and filings like it's all a show, Public meltdowns, master latest and low. Wanna paint her a villain when she spoke the truth. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, you pull all the sleuths. These tactics is classic, turning friends into foes. I see the problem when your shadows will grow. Every woman that leaves, nah, it ain't their fault. Why can't you see the cycle, man? You built this fault, yo.
When you play her for a fool, make a chest move blind. You just flex that narrative, see the way it unwinds. When every breakup's about to play, each moment lit in flames. When every lover suddenly the problem in this twisted game. Look at the record, see the lies they tell. I'm already stood tall and proud. Can't you see she ain't fair?
Yeah. Can't you see she ain't fair?
Yo, let's keep it real.
Turtle boy, don't get scared now. Just drop the truth, lay it all down. Turtle boy, what's the word? Lose your job as a teacher, man, was it absurd? PDFs and papers all scattered on the floor. Heard you were a perv, coaching soccer, now you bored. Resigning the blogging, that's a laughable scene. Lana went over the evidence, truth's really clean. Cries Grove, tangled up in claims, dangling in the air. Hope you don't appeal, but the state ain't gonna care.
Short man, little dick syndrome, causing all the fuss. We don't wanna hear you say trigger to us. Why'd you really get fired from your job?